Hey YouTube, how's it going? Kevin Cleary with a knife video. Got a blade for you today that has really become a very favorite of mine. This is one I think that is, sort of going to be in the category of some of my zero tolerances that, if you watch my most carried knife videos, you always see there's a few repeats there. This is going to be one of those knives. It's just phenomenal, okay? This is, of course, everyone who now sees it and who saw the title of the video before you started, this is the Spyderco Military in the titanium frame lock. Excellent blade, okay? There's not a whole lot to dislike about this knife. It is a little heavier than the original, but totally carryable. The price point is very good. I've got to say, just right now by way of introduction, this knife, you used to see them for quite high. They used to run around 300 bucks. You can pick these up now, even on Blade HQ, which is not, I don't find Blade HQ to be known for very aggressive pricing all the time. Sometimes they have great deals, but Blade HQ has this for like $230 something, $239, let's say it's $240. For this knife, that's a phenomenal deal. It's a great big knife. You're getting a very good, very capable, very comfortable, easy to carry, high quality knife that competes well, and in fact maybe even beats a lot of other large tie frame locks. The K2 is another similar model from Spyderco, and I would take this over a K2 any day of the week. Okay. By the way, both of those have come down a lot in price. They can be now had for the K2s, I think, are now similar in price to this, maybe $242, so like within $3 or $4. All right, so great value on this. Great knife. Just an absolute new favorite of mine, okay? I cannot say enough about how much I like and enjoy this blade. Now, let's get into some of the specifics. Size and weight to start. I'm going to start with weight. I know I don't usually do that, but because this is a little heavier than the original Military, I'm going to start out there. The original Military is 4.2 ounces for a 9.5 inch knife, which is fantastic. I mean, that the ratio of size to weight is just second to none. Okay, this is not that light, weighs in at 5.9 ounces, so almost 2 ounces heavier, but great knife. Okay, those 2 ounces, for me anyway, are totally worth it. And I've got to say this, I love this knife, even though I would only, I liked the standard Military, okay? I didn't love it. I liked it, it was cool, I did give it a very positive review, but I wasn't madly, crazily in love with it the way I am with this. This thing is phenomenal, okay? As far as I'm concerned. Now, you may look at it and just absolutely hate it, or maybe you are just the most die-hard original Military fan and you don't like the change and the extra weight or whatever, but I think this is a huge improvement, and for me the likability scale is way up here, where on the original Military, still a very likable blade, but not in the same category as this. This thing is excellent. Okay, so 5.9 ounces, 9.5 inches, 4-inch blade, 5.5 inch handle. For me, this is a great size for a folding knife. I like larger blades, and certainly this qualifies. The fact that it's a titanium frame lock, it feels, to me, it's more confidence inspiring in hand, and I really appreciate that. So anyway, great blade, gotta say. I'm a big fan, and part of the reason is size and weight. Yes, it's a little heavier, it's still under 6 ounces for a very large knife, okay? I have other knives that are not quite this big, or that are around this size, that weigh, 6, 6.5, 7 ounces. So the fact that this is 5.9 ounces is actually still quite a win in terms of weight, as far as I'm concerned, all right? Now, let's talk about the blade. The blade is pretty standard fare, S30V blade steel. If you're familiar with the Military, it's basically the same grind, flat grind with lots of belly here, very acute point. I'm not going to zoom in yet because I think most people are familiar with the blade shape on the Military or the paramilitary. Also, I want to do a couple comparisons, so I do really like the blade. I will say a similar knife that is also very high on my list of favorites is the McHenry & Williams. Now, the McHenry & Williams does have a longer cutting edge. The blade length is very close, as you can see there, but the cutting edge is quite a bit longer. If I put them side by side, you can see that there's about a 1/4 inch more cutting edge on the McHenry & Williams, and it is a smaller knife overall. So closed, it's about a 1/2 inch shorter, even though there's more blade, okay? So that's one of the reasons I love this knife, okay? So in terms of size comparison, there's a McHenry & Williams and there's the Thai Military. As I'll also show you really quickly here, since we're talking about blades, most people are going to be familiar with the Paramilitary 2. Maybe you even own one, and you can see the size comparison there as well. The military is significantly larger. Okay, now having said that, it is significantly larger. You can still achieve pretty well all of the finer, more detailed cutting tasks with this, because of the fact that, like a lot of Spydercos, it does have the ability to choke right up here and get a lot of control, okay? So that's pretty standard fare, again, for Spyderco knives. And if you're familiar with lots of other Spideys, you know you can do that. And they tend to do really well at giving you those kinds of options. And you can at least take 3 or 4 different positions on this knife and it function very, very well, depending on what your needs are at the time. All right. So that's the blade, S30V. It is available in a bunch of blade steels. There are, some pretty high-end ones. So if you're that kind of person who says, hey, I like Thai frame locks, but I want something a little more special, go for, upgrade to, I think there might be an S110 version of this, an M4 version of this. I could be wrong on some of those, but I know there are a number of higher-end steels available. No DLC coating that I know of, and I'm fairly certain that it doesn't work to switch your standard military blade out for this blade. The tang is not the same shape, okay? And that's because the lock is different. So that's everything I've got to say about the blade. It's a full flat ground blade, very sharp, slices like crazy, stabs really well. There's not much to say about this that you don't already know, other than to say it is a very, very versatile, very, very functional blade. And that's true whether you need this for EDC, whether it's going to be a camp knife and you might be preparing food with it. There's even enough belly that although it wouldn't excel at this, you could probably get away with skinning tasks. It's not like a chopper, it's not that style of bushcraft knife, but certainly you could do some wood processing, you could prepare feather sticks, process an animal, that kind of stuff, no problem with this knife. In terms of combat use, it is called the Military, and its initial design was because Sal Glesser was making a knife that he would give his child if he were going overseas to serve in the military. So certainly this is also going to serve very well if you are, in need of a knife for firearm backup, if you're, a Navy SEAL or a soldier or a police officer, or, you're an undercover cop or somebody who needs a blade as a weapon. Certainly this is going to fit the bill. But the cool thing about it is, although it does have that capacity, it is a phenomenal utility tool as well. Okay, and that is true of almost any blade with a full flat grind. Okay, very, very utilitarian blade design. Now let's move on to lockup and deployment. It is a frame lock, and one of the cool things about this knife is you get a classic design, well loved, years of appreciation for the military. Tons and tons of people just think this is the greatest knife ever. But within that, you get a titanium frame lock that has all of the sort of newer expectations. So, for example, here's a relatively new Spyderco titanium frame lock, and guess what it has? It has this nice stainless steel insert. So it's stainless steel interfacing with stainless steel in the lock. It's got an over travel stop, and all of those things are things we'd like to see on our sort of modern titanium frame locks. Well, guess what? Here's an old design, a classic design, but wisely Spyderco has implemented those more modern upgrades. Okay, so there is a stainless steel lock bar insert here. Hopefully you'll be able to see it. Maybe at this point would be a good time to zoom in as we talk about some of this slightly more detailed stuff. Come on. There we go. Sometimes this camera doesn't want to cooperate with me very well. Get that to focus for you. And there you can kind of see as the light shines off that little piece of stainless steel right by my thumb. You can see there is a stainless steel lock bar insert, And that also serves as, there's a tab going back, so it's also an over travel stop. One cool thing that I think about this as a design feature is notice how you can only see this one little hole by the tip of the pocket clip. That's the only part of the cutout you can see. Unless if I angle it this way, now you can see, oh yeah, it's a titanium frame lock. But if you hold the knife this way, in terms of presentation, it's really, really clean and really smooth. And I really, really appreciate that from an aesthetic standpoint. I know functionally it makes no difference. I will say the lock bar cutout, the relief cut is on the inside, and okay, that does weaken the knife. Okay, if I show you, so here's the 0562, there's the relief cut on the outside. Come on, focus. There you go. So you can see the relief cut on the outside versus the relief cut on the inside here. I could show you that same thing on the domino. So there's the relief cut there on the outside. Here, the only way you can see that relief cut is if I turn it this way for you. So I'll turn them sideways and you can see how this is cut out at the top and this one's cut out on the inside. Now functionally, that is not ideal. Okay, sorry, I'll get my head out of the frame there. From an engineering standpoint, it would be nice to have direct transfer of force. But the reality is, it's not the end of the world, okay? Titanium frame locks are still going to be strong, but by its nature, a relief cut is going to create a weak point. Now, if you watched, I'm trying to remember what video I talked about this in, the Benchmade 761. If you watched that video, I made some comments about, I would like to see, and I think it would be cool if on titanium frame locks, they added just an extra, instead of milling out one cut here, if they left like one piece of titanium running across, they didn't cut out one section, that would add a lot of strength to any titanium frame lock and would certainly increase the amount of pressure that this lock could bear, even though, even as it stands, this is going to be a very strong lock and you'd have no reason to worry about this knife ever closing on you when you don't want it to, okay? What else should I say about the handle? There is a backspacer. So this is, it is sort of semi-open construction, okay? This backspacer is here. That's primarily what is connecting these two frame pieces. It is a tube lanyard hole, and that tube, again, is flared inside. So it is providing some structure as well. Single position pocket clip, which, obviously, it would be nice to see this be able to be, tip up carry. It seems like a logical thing to do when now you've got titanium. So in the original military, there's nothing to screw to here, but now there is. So it seems like you could make the change, but they didn't do that. Whatever. It's not the end of the world. And I want to tell you that once again, like I said with the Benchmade, I have tried this. And in fact, I've tried it with a number of different Spydercos and even different models. I did some, I just thought, okay, how quickly can I get this in a pocket and get it open versus another knife that's tip-up carry. I do prefer tip-up carry, but in terms of speed and in terms of my ability to use the knife in, sort of an emergency situation, I don't think there's really any big difference. Let's come back out here. I don't think we need to be zoomed in any longer. Sorry about that. Dropped some notes there. Ergonomics are very good. If you've held a military or a paramilitary, the ergonomics are excellent on these models. There's no, the titanium is not textured in any way to provide grip. Having said that, there is a very good thumb ramp with very good jimping here, and I feel very secure when I really lock down on this blade. I am not at all concerned about my hand sliding up onto the blade, okay? And I'm going to do a video coming up. This is a bit of a preview, but there's a local tire guy, and I think I'm going to get some tires from him and do some stabbing into those tires. And I've got a few blades, this being one of them, that I specifically want to test for that. One, to show how easy or how hard that really is. Okay, we see on movies, people just walk out and they take a Swiss Army knife and flatten all the guy's tires in 2 seconds. Is that real? We'll find out. Stay tuned for that video coming up, but this would be a knife that I want to check that out with. For one reason, to demonstrate that even though this is slick, you can still get a good firm grip on it, and you could still stab this into something without risking your own fingers, okay? So, overall, I've got to say this is a fantastic knife. If you're a fan of big knives, if you're a fan of titanium frame locks, if you're a fan of the paramilitary or the military, you really got to check this out. And in addition to just being a great knife, consider the fact that you can pick one of these up right now for like 240 bucks. And if you look at high-end titanium frame locks out there, that's definitely on the low end of the scale. You know, this is made in the US. Of course, like all Spydercos, it's made in Golden, or like they always put on here, Golden, Colorado, USA earth. It's not a Taichung, Taiwan Spyderco. I wouldn't question the fit and finish on this at all. You know, I've got a few Taiwan Spydercos, and I've said before they're great. This is great as well. There's no issues with this knife whatsoever. So overall, you just have an extremely versatile knife that could excel at, you know, EDC. It could excel at bushcraft as long as it's not heavy cutting, like as long as it's not chopping or anything like that. It could excel in the kitchen. It could excel around your campsite. It can do just everything that you would ever need your folding knife to do. Plus, because of its size, because of its shape, it can also work as a defensive weapon, even with the tip down carry, which I don't prefer, but very, very good. There's just a lot of good stuff to say about this. Oh yeah, by the way, I totally forgot to mention phosphor bronze bushings. So I didn't mention that at Lockup and Deployment, but it does deploy very quickly. You know, you can do the old spider flick, spider drop, all that stuff is very good. No issue at all in terms of deployment on this, and I guess I should have mentioned that at the outset. But yeah, I can deploy this very quickly, even from the tip down pocket carry position. So there you go, guys. That's my take on the military, on the titanium version of the Spyderco military. As far as I'm concerned, the handle makes all the difference. I love this knife, even though my perception of the original military was only so-so. I mean, I liked it, I didn't love it. This is, as far as I'm concerned, above and beyond the original. I absolutely love this knife. There you go, guys. We'll talk to you soon.